Captain Marcus Blackwood stood at the helm of the UES Stellaris Hammer, his weathered hands resting on the tactical display. The ship's ambient hum reminded him of the mining vessels he'd piloted during the resource crisis of 2289. Now, 52 years later, humanity had transformed those same mining technologies into something the galaxy wasn't prepared for. "Contact, bearing 347, announced Lieutenant Raven Sato, her fingers dancing across the sensor array. "Energy signature matches nothing in our database, Captain." "It's massive." Marcus nodded, watching as the holographic display rendered the approaching vessel. The alien ship resembled a cathedral built from crystalline spires and flowing metal, beautiful in its architectural impossibility. Their own vessel, in comparison, looked like an industrial hammer, functional, brutal, and utterly human. "Incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Julian Nash, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the alien signals. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Translation matrix engaging." The bridge crew fell silent as an otherworldly voice filled the command center. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted Krylonian space. Your primitive design suggests you are a lost colony ship. Please power down your engines and prepare for escort back to your system of origin." Marcus exchanged glances with his first officer, Commander Dara Pradesh. After decades of watching alien civilizations bypass Earth as too primitive, humanity had learned to keep their true capabilities hidden. The Stellaris Hammer's rough exterior concealed quantum-fold engines and weaponry that had been developed through centuries of human conflict. "Tactical assessment?" Marcus asked softly. The ship's AI, designated Nexus, responded in its characteristic measured tone. "Their shield configuration suggests Type 3 civilization technology, Captain. However, their energy distribution is inefficient. They rely on show over substance. Our kinetic penetrators would breach their barriers in approximately 2.3 seconds. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," Marcus replied. "Mr. Nash, open a channel." "Channel open, sir." Marcus straightened his uniform. "Krylonian vessel, this is Captain Marcus Blackwood of the United Earth ship Stellaris Hammer. We are not lost, nor are we primitive. We are on a sanctioned exploration mission and request peaceful dialogue." The response was immediate and dripping with condescension. "Captain Blackwood, your vessel's design suggests you have barely mastered fusion power. For your own safety, power down and prepare for boarding. We will return you to your homeworld and begin proper first contact procedures with your leaders." Commander Pradesh muttered under her breath, "They're in for a surprise." "Multiple power signatures detected," Raven called out. "They're powering up weapon systems." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Nexus, combat analysis. Their weapon systems are charging at 31% efficiency compared to our own. They are attempting to generate an impression of overwhelming force through energy wastage. Actual combat capability is approximately 47% of apparent threat level." The Krylonian ship's crystalline spires began to glow with purple energy. "This is your final warning. Power down or we will disable your vessel. This is for your own protection." Marcus took a deep breath. Humanity had hoped first contact would go differently, but they had prepared for this possibility. "All hands, battle stations. Mr. Nash, send them our response, we decline your generous offer. Incoming energy weapon discharge." Raven reported. "Shield harmonics adapting," Nexus announced. "Analyzing attack patterns. Their weapon technology is predictable." The purple beam struck the Stellaris Hammer's shields, which flickered briefly before stabilizing. On the tactical display, Marcus watched the Krylonian ship's energy reading spike in what he interpreted as surprise. "Impossible." The alien transmission crackled. "Your shields, they should have collapsed instantly." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "As I said, we are not primitive. Stand down your weapons, and let's discuss this as equals." Multiple ships emerging from fold space. Raven's voice cut through the tension. 5, no, 7 Krylonian vessels. The original ship transmitted again, this time with less certainty. Your deception will not be tolerated. Surrender your shield technology immediately. Marcus shook his head. Nexus, tactical options. We can disable their weapons systems with minimal damage to their vessels using targeted EMP bursts. This would demonstrate our capabilities while minimizing loss of life. Make it so, Marcus ordered. Lieutenant Sato, target their weapon arrays only. Commander Pradesh, prepare a diplomatic package explaining our position. Let's show them humanity knows how to end fights without destruction. The Stellaris hammer's hidden weapon ports opened smoothly, revealing arrays that pulsed with blue-white energy. Before the Krylonian ships could react, precise bursts of electromagnetic energy struck their weapon systems, causing their beautiful crystalline architecture to go dark. All enemy weapons offline, Raven reported. Their secondary systems are intact. Marcus stood, straightening his uniform. Send them this message: we come in peace, but we will not be patronized or threatened. The galaxy has ignored humanity as primitive for too long. We're ready for dialogue as equals, or not at all. The bridge fell silent as they waited for a response. Finally, the Krylonian transmission returned, this time notably lacking its previous arrogance. Perhaps, we should discuss this situation in more detail, Captain Blackwood. As Marcus prepared for the first real diplomatic contact between humanity and the Krylonian Empire, he couldn't help but think about how far humanity had come. They had transformed their scars into strength, their conflicts into innovation, and now they would transform their isolation into opportunity. The weight of silence in space was about to be broken by a new voice, humanity's voice. And this time, they would not be ignored. 3 days after the first contact incident, the Stellaris hammer drifted silently through the nebula-filled expanse of the Nexus cluster. Lieutenant Raven Sato hadn't left her sensor station for more than 4 hours at a time, watching for the telltale signs of pursuit they all knew would come. Energy spike detected, she announced, her voice cutting through the bridge's tension. Multiple signatures emerging from quantum space. Captain Blackwood leaned forward in his command chair. Nexus, analysis. Detecting 15 Krylonian vessels, the AI responded. Including their flagship, the Celestial Mandate. Their energy emissions suggest significant weapons upgrades since our last encounter. Commander Pradesh moved to the tactical display, her expression grim. They've been busy. Those aren't the same ships we disabled before. No, Julian Nash agreed, his cybernetic eye glowing as it processed the incoming data. These are their elite ships. The Mandate alone is 3 times the size of our previous contact. The main view screen filled with the approaching Krylonian fleet. Their flagship lived up to its name, a massive construct of crystalline towers and energy-wreathed spires that dwarfed its escorts. Unlike the previous encounter's relatively simple vessels, these ships bristled with weapon emplacements and showed signs of recent modification. They've been adapting, Blackwood observed. Nexus, what are our chances? Their modifications are impressive but rushed. They've sacrificed efficiency for raw power. Current combat projection shows a 67% chance of victory, but with significant damage to our systems. The comm system crackled to life with a transmission from the Mandate. Human vessel, this is High Admiral Chorus of the Krylonian Empire. Your previous display of force has been noted, but you face the true might of our civilization. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated with respect as we examine your technological achievements. Blackwood's fingers drummed on his armrest. Mr. Nash, analyze their transmission. What's their real intent? Julian's cybernetic eye word. Multiple encrypted signals hidden in the transmission. They're coordinating attack positions. They're not here to talk, sir. Raven, Blackwood called, what's the status of that sensor sweep I asked for? Confirmed, Captain. The nebula's particle density is perfect for the resonance cascade. Blackwood nodded. They had planned for this. Nexus, initiate Protocol Thunder Echo. Commander Pradesh, battle stations. Let's show them why humanity learned to fight smart instead of big. The Stellaris hammer's engines pulsed once, releasing a carefully calculated burst of quantum particles into the nebula. To the Krylonian fleet, it would look like a standard engine flare, but it was far more. They're launching fighters, Raven reported. Over 200 signatures. Let them come, Blackwood said quietly. Time to detonation. 15 seconds, Nexus responded. The nebula's particle density is achieving optimal saturation. The Krylonian fighters swarmed toward them like angry insects, their energy weapons charging. Behind them, the capital ships moved into an attack formation that would have been devastating against a conventional opponent. 5 seconds, Nexus announced. High Admiral Chorus's voice boomed again, this is your final warning. Your tricks won't. Now, Blackwood ordered. The quantum particles they had seeded throughout the nebula activated simultaneously, creating a cascading resonance effect. The nebula itself became their weapon, as carefully calculated waves of energy rippled through space. The Krylonian fighters' shields flickered and died as their power systems were disrupted by frequencies their hasty modifications hadn't accounted for. Direct hit on 89% of enemy fighters, Raven called out. Their capital ships are experiencing massive power fluctuations. On the tactical display, the mighty celestial mandate listed to port, its crystalline towers dark and lifeless. The escort ships fared no better, their rushed shield modifications proving useless against an attack they hadn't conceived possible. Their weapons are offline, Commander Pradesh reported. Shield systems failing across their fleet. Send targeting data to all their bridge stations, Blackwood ordered. Show them exactly how many kill shots we're not taking. Julian worked his console. Data sent. They're receiving it. The bridge fell silent as the Krylonian fleet drifted, their mighty ships reduced to powerless hulks by a single carefully planned maneuver. It hadn't been raw power that won the day, but humanity's hard-learned lessons about using the environment itself as a weapon. Incoming transmission, Julian announced. Text only. Their communication systems are barely functioning. The message was brief, we yield. What are your terms? Blackwood stood, straightening his uniform. Send them this, your empire has existed for millennia. Ours is just beginning. We don't want your territory or your technology. We want respect and recognition. The next time you underestimate humanity, we won't be so gentle. As the message was sent, Commander Pradesh moved to stand beside her captain. They'll be back, she said quietly. And they'll be better prepared. Good, Blackwood replied. Because so will we. Humanity didn't survive its own wars by staying static. Every challenge makes us stronger. The Stellaris hammer's engines hummed to life, leaving the disabled Krylonian fleet behind in the gleaming nebula. They had won this battle not through brute force, but through innovation and strategy, the very qualities that had kept humanity alive through its darkest hours. Plot a course to the Meridian Gap, Blackwood ordered. If the Krylonians found us, others will too. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just surviving anymore. We're ready to thrive. As the ship entered quantum space, the nebula behind them still rippling with echoes of their victory, the crew knew that everything had changed. The galaxy's powers would no longer dismiss humanity as primitive upstarts. The question now was whether they would accept humanity as equals, or come to fear them as something more. The Meridian Gap wasn't actually a gap at all. Instead, it was a dense field of quantum-fractured asteroids, split and resplit by some ancient catastrophe until they formed a maze of gravitational eddies. The Stellaris hammer threaded its way through the debris field, its hull occasionally gleaming with the reflected light of distant stars. Lieutenant Raven Sato frowned at her sensor readings. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns in these asteroids. They're resonating with our quantum drive somehow. Elaborate, Captain Blackwood said, moving to her station. It's like they're singing back to us, Raven explained, adjusting her instruments. Every pulse from our engines creates a harmonic response in the surrounding field. Nexus, are you seeing this? The AI's response held a note of fascination. Affirmative. The quantum signatures suggest these asteroids were not naturally formed. They appear to be fragments of a much larger structure. Commander Pradesh looked up from her tactical display. A structure? Out here in the void? Sir, Julian Nash called out, his cybernetic eye pulsing rapidly. I'm picking up data streams embedded in the resonance patterns. They're responding to our ship's presence. Blackwood studied the swirling patterns on the main viewer. Nexus, full scan of the field. Let's see what we're dealing with. The scan revealed a shocking truth. The entire meridian gap was actually the shattered remains of what must have been an enormous installation. The quantum fractures weren't random damage, they were the result of deliberate engineering on a scale that boggled the mind. Captain, Nexus announced, I believe I understand why our technology functions differently than the Krylonian designs. These fragments, they're quantum processors. The entire field is a broken computer of unimaginable size. Raven's fingers flew across her console. The resonance patterns are stronger now. It's like the system is waking up, recognizing something in our ship's quantum signature. Sir. Julian's voice was urgent. The data streams, they're forming coherent patterns. I think it's trying to communicate. The main viewer flickered as ancient symbols began to scroll across it. Nexus processed them in real time, translating a message that had waited millennia to be heard. Recognition protocol initiated. Quantum resonance patterns match creator parameters. Access granted to inheritor species. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as holographic displays materialized around them, showing technical schematics and designs that made even their advanced technology look primitive. Nexus, Blackwood said carefully, analysis. Captain, these designs, they're showing us how our quantum technology could be refined. The Krylonians and other species developed their technology along crystalline matrices, but we accidentally stumbled onto something far older. Our quantum drive's core design mirrors these ancient patterns. Commander Pradesh moved closer to one of the holographic displays. Are you saying we've been using their technology without knowing it? Not exactly, Nexus replied. We developed our own version of it. That's why the system recognizes us. Where other species went toward crystalline technology, humanity's path of development led us to independently recreate aspects of this ancient quantum architecture. Raven's console suddenly lit up with warnings. Multiple ships entering the field. Krylonian signatures, they followed us. 3 Krylonian vessels emerged from quantum space, their crystalline structures gleaming. But before anyone could react, something extraordinary happened. The quantum field around them pulsed, and the Krylonian ship's systems went dark. Their technology, Julian observed, it's being rejected by the field. High Admiral Chorus's voice crackled through the comm, strained with obvious concern. What sorcery is this, humans? Our systems are being suppressed by some kind of quantum interference. Blackwood straightened in his chair. No sorcery, Admiral. Just a very old system recognizing something in humanity it's been waiting to find. Stand down your vessels and prepare for a discussion. I think we've all stumbled onto something bigger than our differences. As the ancient system continued to pour data into their computers, Commander Pradesh moved close to Blackwood. Sir, this changes everything. If we're the only ones who can access this technology, then we have a responsibility, Blackwood finished. Humanity fought its way to the stars because we had to survive. Now we have to prove we deserve what we've found. The holographic displays shifted, showing vast networks of similar installations scattered throughout the galaxy. Each one dormant, waiting for the right quantum signature to wake it. Captain, Nexus announced, I'm detecting a signal being broadcast through quantum space. The system is announcing its activation. Every spacefaring race will know something has changed. Let them know, Blackwood replied. Humanity's been dismissed as primitive for too long. Now they'll have to accept us as equals, or perhaps even as teachers. As the Stellaris hammer hovered in the heart of the ancient installation, its crew realized they stood at a turning point in history. Humanity had not just found its place among the stars, it had discovered it had inherited the legacy of something far greater. The quantum processors hummed around them, sharing secrets that had waited eons to be rediscovered. And in that moment, every member of the crew understood that their real journey was just beginning. The question wasn't whether humanity belonged among the stars anymore, it was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready for what humanity would become. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Concordat hadn't convened in full session for over 3 centuries. Now, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations packed the ancient chamber, their voices a cacophony of worried discussion. Captain Blackwood stood at the speaker's podium, Commander Pradesh and Lieutenant Sato flanking him, while Julian Nash worked quietly with his cybernetic systems to monitor the various species' communications. The humans have awakened powers beyond their understanding. The Krylonian representative's voice boomed through the chamber. High Admiral Chorus stood beside him, his crystalline armor still showing damage from their encounter in the Meridian Gap. They must be contained before they destabilize the entire galaxy. Contained? A serpentine Nexaran diplomat rose on coils of iridescent scales. The humans access technology that has rejected every other species for millennia. Perhaps we should be asking why. Blackwood raised his hand for silence. The quantum archives we've discovered aren't weapons to be contained. They're tools of understanding, left by a civilization that hoped their inheritors would use them wisely. And you believe humans are these inheritors? The Krylonian speaker's voice dripped with skepticism. A species that spent centuries destroying their own world. Perhaps, Commander Pradesh stepped forward, it was those very struggles that prepared us. While your civilizations pursued perfection through crystalline technology, humanity was forced to adapt, to think differently. We didn't choose our path, survival demanded it. The chamber erupted in argument again until a new voice cut through the chaos. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, ethereal, and ancient. The archivists of the void were rarely seen, but their knowledge of galactic history was unmatched. The humans speak truth, the archivist's melodic voice silenced the chamber. We have watched civilizations rise and fall, each believing they had achieved the peak of technology. But the precursors who built the quantum networks knew that true advancement requires something more than technical perfection. The archivist turned its luminous eyes to Blackwood. They left their legacy not to the most advanced species, but to those who would understand its purpose. The quantum resonance patterns recognize not just technological compatibility, but philosophical alignment. Julian Nash stepped forward, his cybernetic eye glowing as he projected data into the chamber's holographic system. We've analyzed only a fraction of the quantum archives, but what we found suggests the precursors faced choices similar to our own. They weren't looking for perfect inheritors, they were looking for survivors who understood the cost of progress. Raven Sato activated her own display, showing the harmonics they'd discovered. The quantum networks don't just store information, they respond to intention. The same technology that could power 1,000 worlds could also tear reality apart. The precursors wanted inheritors who understood that balance. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't been chosen for their advancement, but for their scars, for their hard-won wisdom about the price of power. High Admiral Chorus moved to the center of the chamber. And if we refuse to accept human stewardship of this power? If we see them as too dangerous to trust? Then you will learn what we learned long ago, Blackwood replied quietly. That fear of those who are different leads only to destruction. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy, we want to help it grow. The archivist nodded slowly. The quantum archives are awakening across the galaxy, each one responding to human quantum signatures. The choice before this assembly is not whether to accept human advancement, but whether to partner with them in understanding what they've found. Commander Pradesh stepped to Blackwood's side. We're offering an open hand to every civilization in this chamber. Help us understand what we've discovered. Work with us to use it wisely. Or stand aside as the galaxy changes around you. The chamber erupted in heated debate once more, but now there was a different tone to the arguments. Some species were already discussing technological partnerships, while others plotted resistance. The galaxy was fracturing along new lines, those who would embrace change and those who would fight to preserve the old order. As the session dissolved into diplomatic chaos, Julian transmitted an urgent message to Blackwood's neural link. Sir, the quantum networks are detecting massive energy buildups in multiple sectors. Some civilizations aren't waiting for diplomatic solutions. Blackwood nodded grimly. They had hoped for peaceful acceptance but prepared for resistance. Send word to Earth. Tell them to activate Protocol Nightfall. If some species want to learn the hard way why humanity survived its own wars, we'll teach that lesson one last time. The Stellaris Hammer's crew left the chamber as the debate raged on. They had offered peace, partnership, and progress. Now they had to prepare for those who would choose conflict instead. The galaxy's breaking point had arrived, and the next few days would determine whether it would break toward war or transformation. The Stellaris Hammer hung in high orbit above Earth, its quantum sensors tracking the massive fleets gathering at the edge of the solar system. Captain Blackwood stood at his familiar position on the bridge, watching as humanity's homeworld glowed blue and peaceful below them. Final count, Raven announced from her station. 712 hostile vessels from 14 different species. They're forming attack patterns we've never seen before. They've been sharing tactical data, Commander Pradesh observed. Learning from each other's strengths. Julian Nash's cybernetic eye pulsed rapidly. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Coalition fleet. High Admiral Chorus is speaking for them. The Krylonian Admiral's face appeared on the main viewer, his expression grim but determined. This is your final opportunity, humans. Surrender control of the quantum networks, submit to oversight from the established powers, and we can avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Blackwood smiled slightly. You still don't understand, do you? Nexus, show them what they're really facing. The AI's presence filled the command network as quantum signals pulsed through space. All across the solar system, ancient installations began to emerge from dimensional storage, a defensive grid that humanity had discovered and restored over the past week. By the void, Chorus whispered. How many of these installations did you activate? All of them, Blackwood replied simply. Across the entire galaxy. The quantum networks aren't just ancient computers, they're the nervous system of the galaxy itself. And they recognize humanity as their operators. Lieutenant Sato's console lit up with new data. Sir, the friendly faction ships are arriving. 300 vessels from species who chose alliance over conflict. The reinforcements arrived in waves, sleek Nexaran ships, massive archivist vessels, and dozens of other species who had recognized the futility of fighting the quantum network's chosen inheritors. They took up defensive positions around Earth, their crews having spent the past week learning to integrate their technology with human quantum systems. Your coalition fleet is impressive, Admiral, Blackwood continued. But you're not just fighting humanity anymore. You're fighting the combined knowledge of every species that chose to evolve rather than stagnate. Stand down. Chorus's image showed conflict in his expression. You would rule us all through these networks. No, Commander Pradesh stepped forward. We would teach you how to access them yourselves. The quantum networks don't respond to human biology, they respond to human thinking. To innovation born from adversity. Any species can learn to use them if they're willing to change their approach. Julian's console chimed. Sir, detecting power spikes in the Coalition fleet. They're charging weapons. All ships, defensive formation Delta, Blackwood ordered calmly. But do not fire unless fired upon. Let them make their choice. The Coalition fleet surged forward, their weapons charging. But before they could fire, the quantum networks pulsed once more. Every ship in space found itself connected to a vast communication grid, their crews suddenly able to see and feel each other's intentions. Through this connection, the coalition forces finally understood. They saw humanity's history through the quantum network's perspective, not as a series of brutal conflicts, but as a crucible that forged a species capable of profound empathy born from suffering. The networks hadn't chosen humanity for their power, but for their potential to help others grow beyond their limitations. Weapons powered down across the coalition fleet. One by one, their ships stood down as understanding spread through the quantum link. High Admiral Chorus's image returned to the screen, his expression transformed by what he had experienced. He paused, struggling with words. We felt what the networks felt in you. Your wars weren't just about survival, they were about learning to build something better from the ashes of conflict. About refusing to accept limitations. That's why the precursors chose us, Blackwood replied softly. Not because we were perfect, but because we never stopped trying to be better. The quantum networks aren't a weapon or a tool of control, they're a teaching system. And now, finally, the galaxy is ready to learn. The coalition fleet began to disperse, their crews forever changed by what they had experienced. The friendly forces moved to escort them safely out of the system, but now as allies rather than adversaries. Commander Pradesh turned to her captain. So what happens now? Now. Blackwood smiled. Now we do what humanity has always done. We explore. We learn. We grow. And we help others do the same. The Stellaris Hammer's quantum drive hummed to life as they prepared to return to the stars. But this time, they weren't going out as Earth's defenders or as inheritors of ancient power. They were going as teachers, guides, and proof that the darkest struggles could forge the brightest future. As Earth's blue marble fell away behind them, Captain Blackwood thought about how far they'd come. Humanity had emerged from its isolation to find not just its place among the stars, but its purpose. They were no longer the primitive species fighting for recognition, they were the ones who would help guide the galaxy into a new age of discovery and cooperation. The silent stars remembered everything, every war, every victory, every moment of transcendence. And now, finally, they would witness the dawn of something unprecedented, a galaxy united not by force or fear, but by the shared journey of growth and understanding that humanity had walked alone for so long. In the quantum networks that spanned space and time, the precursor's final message played one last time: the greatest power is not in knowing all the answers, but in never stopping the search for them. The lesson had been learned. The torch had been passed. And humanity's real journey was just beginning.